Hello everybody, Tyranno here, and welcome to episode 1 of the Patch 1.49 Roundup series. For those of you familiar with my last series for Patch 1.47, basically I take all the news that has happened in the last few days regarding new patches and put them all into one episode, to avoid, tens of episodes for each individual development. And basically we've got a lot of new information about Patch 1.49, so I thought I might as well start the series now. Now, I do apologise if the episode comes off as a bit rushed. I'm sort of going out in about an hour or so I'm kind of rushing to get this all done before I actually go out. I'll also link you to the Patch 1.49 rumour thread in the forums. They usually seem to know what they're talking about. They usually get what's coming out right. It's just basically, where everyone can talk about what's coming in the patch and pooling all the information together. I do recommend you take a visit over there. I will also try and give as much information I can about the vehicles, but like I said, I'm going out in not very long, so it may not be much information, unfortunately. I haven't really got time to get all my books out, but I'll try and give you, at least a brief description of each vehicle, and what it is and all that. Also, a bit of a disclaimer regarding devblog articles. If it's in a devblog article, it's probably going to come out in the next patch, or in this case, patch 1.49. But this doesn't always happen. Sometimes priorities get changed or deadlines get pushed forward or back, so just bear that in mind when looking at the devblog and various articles in the devblog. Now, the first thing we're looking at is on all of the things we're looking at is on the devblog. Basically, I'll leave a link to it, but it's where the developers announce all their new things they're working on for various patches. And they've just released a new one, preliminary list of new vehicles for update 1.49. So this has only just come up literally 2 minutes ago. I was literally about to record for the thing before it, the Skyrage, and I refreshed the page and here it was. But basically, there's going to be quite a few new aircraft and ground vehicles. For America, we're getting the Skyraider AD2, which I'll look at in a minute. The R2 1943 for the Soviet Union. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to do a little bit of looking into that. Now, I did just pause the episode and had a look online for the R2 1943, because I haven't got my books on me at the moment. I can't find any reference to it. The only thing I could find was the R2 production of 1943 on Wikipedia, but this is apparently the R2M, so I have no idea what this vehicle is. I'll try and give you more information if I find any, after this episode's been made, but I don't know what it is at the moment, unfortunately. For the Germans, we're getting a cockpit for the HS-129. I kind of assumed it already had one, but apparently it doesn't. And the Arado 234C3. Now, this is different to the usual Arado we have in-game already, because I believe it has 4 engines. I could be wrong with that, but it also has 2 20mm cannons. I could be wrong, but I think they're meant to fire backwards, but it could be a ground attack type aircraft with the guns pointing forward. I'm not entirely sure. Now, Britain is getting the vast majority of the aircraft. Firefly Mark 1 and Mark 5, the Seafire Mark 17, I believe, the Sea Fury FB11, the Attacker FP1, and the Canberra is getting a cockpit. Now, the Firefly is a carrier fighter aircraft, 4 20mm Hispano cannons, as well as various rockets and bombs. Now, I don't know what tier this will go in, though I'm assuming being the first one it will probably be quite low. The Seafire is a modified version of the Spitfire. It's basically a navalised Spitfire. I'm guessing this is it's one of the later variants. It should be armed with 20mm cannons, if I'm remembering correctly, as well as, again, various bombs or rockets. Now, the Attacker FP1 is very interesting. It's a jet, which has a speed of something like 590 miles an hour. Armed with 4 20mm Hispano cannons. I don't know if this actually carries bombs or anything. I don't have too much information on it, but it should be a very good tier 5 fighter aircraft for Britain. Again, the Canberra's getting a cockpit. Japan's getting the J2M2 and then Ki-21. Now, we've got J2Ms already in the game, so it's going to be a variant of the fighter aircraft Japan already has. The Ki-21 is a bomber. Similar to the Ki-49, it has 5 machine guns. 4 of them are 7.7mm, one's 12.7mm, and I believe it has, it can carry 1,000 kilograms of bombs, not has 1,000 kilograms. Now, this is interesting for the ground vehicles. I'll read them out first. The M2A2, 75mm M3 GMC, M18 GMC, T95, T28, M10 GMC, M18 Black Cat, and the M5A1. I'm assuming that's a premium vehicle. Now, the M2A2 is odd because it's basically an M2 light tank, but with 250 caliber machine guns. I'm not really sure how this is going to work. Two 12.7mm machine guns. That seems rather underpowered, if I'm honest. I assume that's going to be reserve tier, a second reserve tier tank. I don't know, but then the rest of these are all tank destroyers. So is it the beginning of the tank destroyer line? And here's another weird thing: the T95 and the T28. As far as I'm aware, they're the exact same tank, except they had, one was a tank destroyer and one was designed as a super heavy tank. And as they specifications changed, they changed the name. But as far as I'm aware, they're actually the same tank. So I don't know where that's coming from. I honestly have no idea. I mean, it'd be nice to have 2 extra tanks, but it seems a bit weird. I'll link you to my American Tank Destroyer episode. I do give some more information about these. Basically, the M3 is a 75mm gun in a half track. The M18's the Hellcat, which we'll look at in a minute. T95 and T28 are super heavy tanks or tank destroyers. M10's a tank destroyer based on the M4 Sherman, but with a 76mm gun. The M18 Black Cat is a premium of the M18 Hellcat, and the M5A1, well, we've already got them in game. Now, the second vehicle is a Ster 42G. Basically, it's a Stug G with a 105mm howitzer. So, again, we'll look at that in a minute, but, not too different. As far as I'm aware, the only difference is the gun. Now, the Russians are getting the 4M Gaz AAA, the Su-57, Su-122/-54, T-34-85E, 34E, STZ, and the IS-2 Revenge and the Su-76M. Again, those two are probably premiums. Now, the 4M Gaz, from what I understand, is a truck with 4 Maxim machine guns, 7.6 or 2mm machine guns, I believe. I could be wrong, I couldn't really find much information about it, but I'm guessing a Tier 1 anti-aircraft vehicle, as Russia doesn't get one till like Tier 2 at the moment. The Su-57 Light with the M3 GMC is basically a half-track with a 57mm gun. The Su-122-54 is basically T-54 with a 122mm gun, from what I can understand. I assume that's going to be a Tier 5 tank destroyer or something. Now, the T-34s, I couldn't find any information about. We've got a T-34E in-game at the moment, which is basically an up-armoured T-34, which suggests to me it's going to be an up-armoured T-34-85. Now, the STZ is a bit harder. If you look at the description of the T-34E in-game, it mentions they were built at the STZ factory, so I'm guessing this is to do with the factory, but I can't find any information on the variant itself, so apologies, but I can't really help there. It's a bit, if it was just a T-34E STZ, it would obviously be an up-armoured vehicle, but because they've got an E version next to it without the STZ, maybe the STZ factory did a specific up-armouring. I don't really know. Now, as it says up the top, this is a preliminary list of new vehicles, so this could change. Some could be taken away, some could be added on. This is mainly looking at the, as far as I'm aware, the patch, which I believe is called Weapons of Victory, is basically mainly to do with American tank destroyers and the British Fleet Air Arm. All of those vehicles in the British line are for the Fleet Air Arm. So this is a British-centric and American-centric update, although Russia's got quite a lot as well. And so have the Germans. They finally got a decent bomber with armament and, the Sky Raider AD2. But of course there are other updates. When we look through them very quickly, we'll actually start from the beginning. This is from the 5th of March, so a little while ago. It's a new tank location, Reichstag. Basically, it's a new map set in the Reichstag. You can see here, there's some pictures of it. If we go back, I believe these are actually pictures of it as it is in game now. I'll see if I can. I haven't actually got any pictures of it in game, I'm afraid. I thought they did. That appears to be an old picture. But basically, you'll get to fight around Berlin and in the Reichstag. Of course, I'll link you to these articles in the main devlog area, so you can look at them yourself. We've also got another location, Hertgen Forest. Now, this we do have some pictures of. Again, I'll link you to it so you can look at it in more depth. See here, there's rivers and stuff, and you know, lots of countryside, lots of buildings. Again, more ruined buildings, windmills. Now, we know the map size is 64 by 64 kilometres for the air. The ground-based combat is 4 by 4 kilometres, which is a bit odd. In fact, they've got a map of the area we're fighting around. Vossendack. I don't know, I thought the river was more than 4 kilometres away, but you can see it in the picture. Oh, there are more rivers around here that I didn't spot earlier. Oh, that's kind of embarrassing. But so, lots of rivers. Seems to be a big map from what I understand. It's near Aachen. I can't pronounce it. Aachen, which is it a German town? I can't quite remember. Yes, a quick search reveals it is the Aachen in Germany. I knew that was one of the first towns taken by the Allies in Germany, but I couldn't remember. I don't know why the map gave me off a vibe for Belgium, but no, apparently this is near the Hertgen Forest, which was a very big battle. You can see here, longest conflict the US Army has ever participated in. Lasted several months, trying to stop, tie up German reinforcements to stop them reinforcing the north and capture the front lines from the flanks. Another description, beech forest dressed in red and gold, surrounded by hills and indented with dangerous mountain streams and rivers. Idyllic village, surrounded by neat fields and cropland. As a result of fierce fighting, countryside cottages gaped with holes from many days of bombing and artillery shelling. So there, we've got a new map, which is good. It looks quite good, quite interesting. Again, we've got the M18 and the M18 Black Cat. Now, again, I've dealt with these in an American Tank Destroyer episode, which you can look at for more information. Basically, this is a very fast, but not very armoured tank with a 76mm cannon. There's also something new. You can see up here there's somebody actually manning the machine gun, which I don't think we've had before. So I don't know if that's going to be like that for all tanks. I don't know, but basically the Black Cat is a premium. It's a rank 3 self-propelled gun, which we didn't know before. 76mm long-barreled gun, as mentioned. M18 can reach up to almost 56 miles per hour on the road. Okay, that's going to be ridiculously fast. It will be the fastest ground vehicle in game. Oh, so there we go. Now, here's the M18 and the M18 Black Cat. The Black Cat's the one with the muzzle brake removed and hasn't got any side skirts, unlike the normal Hellcat, which does have some side skirts and has a muzzle brake. Open turret is very narrow, and this seems interesting. A siren was mounted on the front hull armour. I assume that's it down at the bottom. I assume we're not going to get to use it, and I'm not even sure how you could use it in real life. I'm not sure what tactical advantage it gives. There we go. I've also got new decals in patch 1.49. See here for various air forces and squadrons: Pakistani Air Force, Thai Air Force, 278th Squadron in Italy, Kangaroo emblem. Oh, they spelled kangaroo wrong. Kangaro. There we go. 1st Regiment Chasseur Cheval. Oh, I can't do French. Iranian Air Force. You know, lots of decals and all that. If we go back, last things we're looking at: Sky Raider AD2 and the Ster 42 Ors G 1943. Now, it's going to be tier 4, which we can see from here, the AD2. Ideal for ground attack. There is one 20mm M3 cannon with 200 rounds per barrel on central parts of the wings. Now, if we look at the picture, you can see one barrel on the wing, so I'm guessing it's going to be two 20mm cannons. I thought it had 4, but apparently, I can only see one in there, and you'll see the other one on the other wing in a minute. 2 bomb racks, which can take up to 2,000 pounds of bombs, or a torpedo type Mark 13-3. Under the folding outer wing, there are 12 pylons which are set to use Mark 9-2 missiles. Again, if you look at the picture, you can count 6 missiles on this side, so presumably 6 on the other. 1 bomb here, presumably 1 on the other. Will clearly be one of the most effective rank 4 attack aircraft and potentially the most efficient one in the game. Large payload and wide variety of armament options available: bombs, rockets and torpedoes. Again, we can see a ridiculous amount of bombs and rockets here. 6 rockets and 2 bombs, and quite big bombs at that. And again, you can just about see the other 20mm cannon, so presumably he was talking about both wings when he mentioned one 20mm cannon. Here they talk about producing the aircraft. 3 air brakes add to the massiveness of the aircraft. It has a massive rounded top but a flat bottom of the fuselage. Due to the lack of propeller spinner, you can actually see the radiator flaps in front of the engine and see how they function during animation. Well, should be interesting. Engine itself is installed at a slight angle, blah blah blah. A lot of time implementing main landing gear and fairings. Model has a lot of animated objects, folding wings, a hook, brake pads and much more. Folding wings, I don't think we've got any aircraft that do that at the moment, so that'll be interesting. I don't know if we can do it ourselves or you just spawn with them folded and they unfold. Now the next vehicle is last one we're looking at is the Stir 42. Now we'll actually pop over to War Thunder itself in a second to show how it would be in game. As it says here, it's basically Stug G but with a 105mm howitzer. Has heat ammunition and is capable of destroying even heavy tanks. Powerful high explosive shells also allow combat with light armoured vehicles and medium tanks, so that would be quite interesting. Maybe a German version of the ISU 152 or something. Here they just talk a little bit about the history of the tank, about the muzzle brake and how they discontinued using it after. So here we are on War Thunder looking at the Stug G, which is what the Stir 42 is based on. Again, all that is different as far as I'm aware is the cannon in the front. So armour wise, 80mm at the front, sloped in some areas, not so well sloped in others. 30mm thickness here, but sloped to about 80, rough effective. At the front again, at this point about 115. Here about 95. Now the side's a bit harder to tell because you've got these skirts in the way, but it's 30mm thick, but it's flat, and you've got the skirts here, but they're only 5mm. And again, the back, not particularly well armoured. Well, actually, it's better armoured than the sides. 50mm over 30, and it is actually sloped in some areas, sort of. So yeah, it should be an effective vehicle, but I'm just wondering how the high explosive shells will work. With the 75mm gun, it's 12mm. How does the American one compare? If we just quickly go over to the Sherman with a 105mm gun, that's same caliber but maybe different length. This does 28, so presumably the Stir 2 will do roughly the same, or Stir 42, sorry. And it's tier 2, so presumably it will go before the Stug 3G. So if you're researching that, as I am, you may want to quickly research it and buy it before the patch comes out. Well, anyway, that's it for today's episode. I do apologise for it being so rushed, but I've, really not got much time at all to record it. Thoughts on the patch so far and the information we've got? I'm pretty happy with it. I would have been happy with just the tank destroyers. I don't know about any bug fixes or anything like that. They do usually do that sort of stuff, but obviously they don't announce it in dev blogs, so articles, and you don't really find out till the dev server itself comes out. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. A few things that raised my eyebrow, like the M2A2, the T95 and T28 being separate, the T34 variants, that sort of stuff. But it does at the moment look like it's going to be a good patch. Of course things can change as we get nearer to the dev server and the release date. I'll do episodes around that as well. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you like these sorts of videos. Leave feedback, could always do with more feedback. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.